This is the Stormy Willow Podcast, a lighthearted, balanced examination of the paranormal. How do you do, and welcome to our brood. This is episode 96 of the Stormy Willow Podcast. And if you're new to the show, each week we bring you booger news, the astrological forecast for the week ahead, and a headline paranormal story determined by our wheel of topics. And I am your host, Adele, along with my sister, Sarah.
Hello, Brood. Hello, Adele. Episode 96. Can you believe we stuck with something this long?
Yeah, I thought I would have given up maybe on episode 4.
10? I was at least going to give you till 10. So.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, but now we're like in it so long we have to keep going at this point.
We have to. We can't stop, at least not before 100.
Wouldn't that be so mean to just end this at episode 99?
Yeah. She's like, oh, and that's it, guys.
And never give you episode 100.
That's right.
But no, we'll go on as long as there's endless topics like this to cover.
Right? I mean, I don't think we're going to run out. I mean, there's a plethora of things to cover.
There are. And speaking of something to cover.
Oh, yeah.
I got some booger news. Although this isn't super boogery, but it's
Okay.
interesting. And this is from howstuffworks.com. Very good source. They usually have some
Yeah, well,
interesting
that's so
stuff
funny.
on
They're
there.
one of the sources in my story today.
Oh yeah, they have some fun stuff. So I don't know if you're on TikTok, you probably heard all about this thing called The Line they're building in Saudi Arabia.
The Line, like Line.
Yeah, The Line.
I'm not familiar. That must not be in my. That must not be my feed.
Okay, well, it's a 106-mile one-building city.
Oh, okay.
So it's literally going to be a huge indoor city with everything you need within like a 5-minute walking distance, no cars, none of that. Like,
Do you know what this reminds me of a little bit?
what? The mall?
PTL.
What?
Remember PTL?
Oh, yes. PTL. If you're old school from the what was that, Regent Park
Fort Mill
area?
Yeah. And if you're not familiar with PTL, it stands for Praise the Lord Productions, and that's Jim and Tammy Faye Baker, where they would, produce their show. And this place was crazy awesome. Like, they had like this mall, and it had like little cobblestone, but the cool thing was the sky. Like, the ceiling was like a sky, and like the clouds would roll in. It was pretty cool.
It really felt like you were outside, but you were inside the mall.
Yes, that's what this is what this reminds me of. I wonder if somebody was inspired by PTL.
Perhaps that. I'm sure that was it, not climate change.
It wasn't. It was 100% PTL. I'm just gonna say that.
Like, finally, lamb chops. Did she do lamb chops? No, she didn't.
No, Tammy Faye did not do lamb chops.
But she did little characters.
But she did puppets. She did do puppets, yeah.
Yeah, finally Saudi Arabia caught wind of what they had going on. They were like, we're going to do that.
I'm telling you.
Well, that's the story. I don't even have to
Not a fan. Do not like Jim Baker, but I love me some Tammy Faye.
I did like Tammy. Well...
Sorry, I took us on a...
Yeah, so there's going to be a PTL in Saudi Arabia, but on a much more massive
scale. Larger scale.
So, Saudi Arabia is home to some of the world's most interesting and ambitious architecture, but the country's newest urban project may just top them all. The Saudi government unveiled plans in 2021 for the city of Neom, including a mega structure called the Line Saudi Arabia, a massive scheme still years from completion. The Line is designed to be an entire city composed of 2 parallel 656-foot wide skyscrapers, each 106 miles and 1,640 feet high.
Holy moly.
I mean, this thing is going to be massive.
Yeah.
And it's going to be higher than most of the world's tallest skyscrapers. I think somebody referenced, it'll be like 3 to 4 Empire State Buildings, like stacked on top of each other.
I can't even fathom that. And it's all going to be indoors.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of cool because the outside is going to look kind of mirrored too. So it sounds very futuristic. It almost makes me think of Dune, though, for some reason. But yes. So this is going
Oh,
to be stretching across the northwest part of Saudi Arabia near the Red Sea. And if you think this sounds like the setting for a futuristic utopian novel, you're not wrong. The line is being described as one building, vertical city outfitted with exterior mirrors, big enough to house 9 million people.
9 million people?
9 million people. Along with everything needed
Oh,
to support urban life from parks and waterfalls to flying taxis and robot maids.
what?
Yeah, there are even plans to include an artificial moon for residents to gaze upon. So almost like Truman Show kind of shit.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so the line features with the proposed width of only 656 feet. So it's like really long and kind of narrow. It really is like a line.
Right.
The linear city will rely primarily on its height to encompass its residents and a host of modern trappings, such as high-speed train to connect sections of the 160-mile
Oh,
city. Saudi Arabian officials claim the line will be otherwise devoid of roads, cars, or emissions and will be powered strictly by clean energy. Here are a few of the most notable proposed features of the line. One, vertically layered homes, offices, public parks, public schools. Two, year-round climate control of all indoor and outdoor spaces. That actually doesn't sound too bad, the climate
yeah.
control, to be honest.
That's true, but you know you're never going to get 9 million people to agree on what this
Oh,
structure
can't
should
even get a
be.
single household.
Exactly. Like, will they have seasons?
Yeah, like, I don't know. That's pretty cool they can control it. Three, they'll have high-speed rail with just four stops that will transport residents from end to end in only 20 minutes. For a 5-minute walk to all amenities. So, like anything you need, including like your doctor's office, like convenience stores, all those
Oh my
necessities will be
God.
within a 5-minute walk for you. And walking distance to parks and natural elements, 2-minute walks, roughly.
Yeah.
When complete, the new city will span 13 square miles across the desert to become a literal oasis, according to the press release. Architectural renderings show one building with two distinct sides of mirrored buildings that incorporates a verdant space in the middle filled with water features and plants. The plans were designed by American company Morphosis
Hmm.
and Project 2030. Although a timeline was not part of the line's announcement, initial earthwork began on October 2021, and it is expected that the first residents will begin moving in by year 2030.
Wow. I mean, that's not really a long time to do something this significant, if you really think about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's only 6 years away
That's
for
it's
something
like,
this
I'm like,
massive.
how, yeah. I don't know what I think about this. Like, on one hand, I think it's really cool, but on the other hand, I think it's really creepy.
Yeah, I think it's interesting they call it utopian because it also makes me feel very dystopian.
Yeah, it's like oxymoron.
Yeah, like I don't know, maybe it will be the only way to combat climate change,
That's really
unfortunately.
sad.
And it makes me so sad for all the animals and living creatures. Like I don't know. Hopefully they have some plan in place for that. Like I don't think this is just to like escape climate change, but I know that this is where this is going.
Yeah.
Probably is
Yeah,
what I think.
probably. And it's just, I'm like, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts on that.
Yeah, the conveniences sound amazing, but at what cost? I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and it is like it's such a huge dream, and but it's like, instead of doing stuff like this, then why can't we just combat climate change? But
Right. Or like, all this shit with like leaving planet Earth. It's like, why don't we just
yeah.
try to fix
I mean,
things
let's just
now?
trash it and peace out, like that's
Yeah.
how I feel. It's kind of like, I don't know.
Well,
But that
trash
is
in,
very
trash
interesting.
out, right? But
Yeah.
yeah.
That is pretty crazy. And I wonder like how affordable this is going to be for people. Like, is it something like they're going to try to get
I
as
think
many
I've heard that
people,
it's actually
or
going to be quite affordable,
yeah.
but it still just makes me nervous because I've heard rumors of all these like company cities that might be kind of
I've
similar.
heard that as well. Like these
It
Amazon cities and stuff, like,
like, what if
your
you want to
doctor's
leave?
here, yeah, it just seems
It also
I
makes
just don't
me.
know.
Do you remember that show Sliders back in the 90s?
Vaguely, yeah.
It makes me think of this one episode where it was kind of like the haves and the have-nots to that extreme. It was like really like a building a lot like this. And these
Yeah,
people were safe, had like high-speed internet, and were like kind of like the one percenters, and everybody
right.
else was outside of that, and it's just desolate, like
Like the
garbage,
Thunderdome.
horrible place.
We
Yeah,
want to know
exactly. So I
hero.
don't know. I don't
That's
know.
how I'm feeling. Those are the vibes I'm getting.
That's just what you're hoping it will be.
Like Mad Max.
Uh, yeah, I mean,
Oh, I don't
it's
know, Adele. Like, wow, that's a little, I don't know.
a little,
It just creeps me out. Like, I think it's an awesome vision, like crazy to put something like that huge, like in a building, but it's just a little scary. There's the scare
there's just
factor to it.
something,
It sort of creeps me out. Like, I don't know. I feel like once you're in, you don't leave.
yeah, something so
Like
unnatural about it
so
too. Like
chipped or something. Yeah, I don't know. I just makes me feel a little
a little
icky.
weary.
Yeah, but oh, it's interesting though.
Yeah. Well, let's look to the stars and see what we have in store with our
While we
astrological.
can still gaze upon them
Yeah,
before.
like the actual stars. I wonder how that's going to affect the astrology for these people.
I know. I was like, well, it depends on what star I'm looking at. I'm not allowed to go out into the Thunderdome and look and
It's
gaze.
never Mercury retrograde in the Thunderdome.
That might be nice. Now you're appealing to my senses. Like maybe it won't be so bad. Be
Yeah,
fine. It's
yeah,
fine.
it'll be fine. Everything's fine. But yes, here is your astrological forecast for February 26th through March 3rd.
Already going into March, you guys.
Marchy March,
And
marching towards
do
March.
we have any leap year babies birthdays? Because happy birthday to you.
Yeah. What are you like, 4?
But yeah, right. Like how does that? Yeah, that's always real trippy to me to think
Yeah.
of like it's a leap year, right? Like if you're a leap year baby.
It's just like, oh, great.
Yeah. They party hard.
Yeah. You get to celebrate both days, right? The day before and after.
I
Like,
think absolutely.
totally makes sense to me. But yeah, so happy birthday to any leap year babies and those born between the 26th and the 3rd, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and this is mindbodygreen.com is my source. So let's just jump right in. So Tuesday, February 27th, we have Mars Jupiter square. So your patience is going to be tested.
Ah,
So there's going to be some strong egos and tempers,
okay.
and you might just need to be the bigger person and
Hmm.
just take the high road, okay? Or else you're
I
going
don't
to get into
wanna.
these endless headbutts, and
Mm,
nobody's going to back down at this time.
okay.
All right. So then the next day, Wednesday, February 28th, we have the Sun, Mercury align in Pisces. So that brings out your creative juices. So that'll be nice. You'll
That'd
have
be
some
nice.
creativity going. But Saturn will join the little Pisces party we have going on, and that will bring a reality check to that creativity.
Oh.
So they might
Oh.
kind of pee in your cornflakes.
Hate
Um,
it when that happens.
so you might want to kind of keep these creative ideas that you have maybe like close to your chest, not really share them that much. Or if you do get some critical, you know, poo poo on your plans, I guess,
Typical
maybe it
poop.
is necessary to go back and kind of rethink it to make sure you have all the details hashed out. But just know this is temporary and just take it on the chin.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
Not, don't take it too personally.
Yeah. So if you do get some criticism, just don't get discouraged and give up.
Like I'm done.
Yeah. Because there's definitely some of that energy going on with being so headstrong and
Yeah.
egos and tempers right now. And then this weekend, we have Venus in Aquarius and Uranus in Taurus. What does that mean? Short fuses and stubbornness.
Well, it just keeps on, fun just keeps on coming.
Yeah. So if you're like the people you're close to, you might be pushing your buttons a little bit this weekend. Just remember, just walk away. Don't add fuel to the fire.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
so hard to do.
And I don't know, it sounds like maybe if you have a new relationship, don't be rash and like just break up over something silly
Oh,
this weekend.
yeah.
Like just go
Yeah.
cool off and just know that this is going to pass very quickly.
Good.
All right. And then Sunday, March 3rd, we have our waning quarter moon in Sagittarius. So this is actually a good time to have open, honest conversations,
After
which might be
all, yeah,
necessary.
all of the stubbornness from the week. It's
Exactly,
like,
which
let's
might be needed.
relax.
So if between like the last full moon and now there's been something that you've been kind of feeling needs to be resolved, this might be a good time to resolve that because it's going to be easier to talk to others and take down their perspectives. So you might actually have some productive conversations from an ongoing issue.
That's good.
So that would be a good way to end the week. So just, keep your wits about you, stay cool and calm, collected,
Oh,
and just
yeah.
walk away. Don't blow up this week.
And just try to, maybe just kind of remember those, what relaxes you, like whatever it is, to work through those emotions so you don't fly off the handle.
Yeah.
So you need to have those tools in your in your tool bag this week.
Yeah. Or if you're hypoglycemic, have a snack handy.
Yeah, that would be me.
So
I did get some snacks, some healthy snacks. So
yeah,
because
if you're cranky when you're sleepy, maybe take your naps. Do
yes,
things to
me
try to make it
too.
easier on you this week.
Yeah, stay hydrated, do all the things.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Oh, okay. Well, we'll get through it. We'll
It
get through
doesn't
it,
sound
guys.
like the worst. It just
Fine.
sounds like some grumpy gills going on.
It's fine.
It'll be
We're
fine.
just ready for spring. Everybody's feeling those little blues. Fine.
It's all
I
good.
like it. All good. Well, thank you, Adele, for booger news and astrology news. We'll be ready.
You're welcome. Now back to you for the main headline.
Story. So, you remember last week I landed on Percenter's Choice, which is so fun, but then you're like, what the heck to cover? There's so much to cover. And
Yep.
I'm not really sure how I landed on this or why, but we're just gonna go with it. Um, so today we're gonna be talking about a fella, you may know him as Nostradamus.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, we're gonna dig into this fella and some things. But first, thank you to my sources: Wikipedia.org, History.com, HowStuffWorks.com, History.co.uk, and OFact.com. All
Fun.
right, so let's kick it off. He was born Michel de Nostradam, December 1503, and he passed away in July 1566. You know him as a French astrologer. He was also really big into apothecary work. I can never say that word. He was a physician, a seer, and he's best known for his books called Les Prophéties that was published in 1955, which is a collection of 942 poetic quatrains. Now, if you don't remember what a quatrain is, let me remind you. It's a 4-line stanza of poetry. So I know I hadn't heard that word in a hot minute. So,
What are we about to take the SATs?
yeah. I just, in case you're doing some SAT prep, there you go.
There you go.
And so the thing about this book is that it allegedly predicts future events. And so I don't know if you can remember this, but I always remember like being really little and going into the A&P with grandma, and they have like the little tabloid section, and Nostradamus is always on the cover, buddy, with he predicts,
Yep.
and he already said this. So I think he is definitely I mean, here we are in 2024, right? And we're still talking about him and his predictions. So it's pretty awesome. So let's get into the early years. He was born one of nine children. And really, there's not a lot known about him as a child. His father was a grain and money dealer, and he was educated by his maternal great grandfather. And at a very, very early age, he entered the University of Avignon to obtain his bachelor's degree. The university unfortunately had to close its door during the outbreak of the plague, so he didn't get a chance to finish. And so he decided just to travel the countryside of France for 8 years, researching natural herbal remedies. So, I mean, he's kind of a self-taught man when it comes to apothecary, which I think is pretty awesome. In 1529, after some years, he actually ended up becoming like an apothecary. He entered the University of Montpellier to study for his doctorate in medicine, but he was expelled because it was discovered that he was working as an apothecary, and they thought that that was just stupid and like illegal or whatever.
That's
and so
just
they're like,
stupid.
you're out of here. I mean, what a stupid reason to expel someone. So he actually never got to get his doctorate degree. So
That's so silly.
now he is famous, like in addition to his predictions, he was actually famous for creating what's called a rose pill that was supposedly would help protect people against the plague. So
Oh, okay.
but let's get into the juicy stuff. So let's talk about when he joins the cult.
There we go. Okay.
You
the fun
know,
parts.
Now here's the fun part. So after a visit to Italy, Nostradamus began to move away from medicine and that kind of life, and he kind of started leaning more towards the cult. And so, following popular trends, he wrote an almanac in 1550 for the first time in print. This was the first time he actually listed his name as Nostradamus instead of like before he was just, Michel de Nostradamus. And this, when he started printing this almanac, he just listed his name as Nostradamus because I think he was a little like nervous about it, like writing an almanac and like what if like, it was some kind of, I don't know, legal issues or something. I think he kind of wanted like a pen name. So I think this is really cool because one of the things he did in the almanac, he actually started like the first kind of like horoscopes. Like, like you always like in a magazine, you can always go to the back and find your horoscope. So this is what was in this almanac, and people fucking loved it. Like they were like, oh, I could get my horoscope pretty much. So it kind of made this almanac like this big thing, There were other things. There were supposed to be at least 6,338 prophecies as well. And so people just loved it. They were like, this is so interesting. This is so neat. And so then so word kind of gets out about him because they just love it. And he just really kind of became famous for that. But it's noted that none of his prophecies or his astrology was really that great. Like people were like, I guess they are now like that horoscope was completely not right. So he wasn't really known for doing it exactly great, but I think people really liked to have a chance to read that,
I think it's also just people like hearing about themselves or potentially themselves, So
yes.
oh, it's about me.
And you have to think, like, I'm trying to think what the world would have been like in the 1500s.
Probably very boring.
I mean, so to have something like that, and I feel like this is kind of what sparked this to be a part of so many publications today, right? Like magazines always have a horoscope, and we kind of have him to thank for it, which I think is kind of cool that it's lived this long, Yeah. So what else did he do? So he definitely that he was really, really paranoid about being persecuted for heresy, or the church was going to come down on him because he was like, putting astrology in print. And so he was really, really, he just really was afraid of that. And so that's why he used like his pen name. And then he did actually come into some conflict with the church, shocker there. And he was imprisoned very briefly, just because they said that he had violated a recent royal decree by publishing his 1562 almanac without permission from the bishop. So he spent a little bit of time in jail for something kind of dumb. So, and then I'm going to tell you how he passes, and then we'll get into the fun stuff. So this is also, I think, horrible. So he dies in 1566 because he had a long problem with gout, and actually it turned into I'm going to say this wrong, it's edemia, and so it's basically like the swelling of your joints and your legs, and that's what actually killed him.
How does that actually kill somebody?
I guess maybe in that time they didn't have like medicine and stuff for it,
so it's just like you're
like
swelling in pain. That's horrible.
Like he had a hard time like with mobility and stuff. But here's the spooky thing, guys. So he told his secretary on the night that he died, "You will not find me alive at sunrise." And guess what? She didn't. So
is that his first prophecy that was correct?
That's his first prophecy that was correct. Now let's get into these prophecies, because these are there are a ton, right? And the ones that he's most famous for are the French Revolution, the rise of Napoleon and Hitler, the invention of the atomic bomb, the assassination of JFK, the September 11th attacks, and COVID-19. Those are like pretty big things. Mm-hmm. Now, because we're well balanced here, let's talk about the skeptics, because they're like, no. So I'm going to break it down in bullet points of why the skeptics think that this is a bunch of baloney. One, they say it's just creative interpretation. So they break it down to say that there are nearly 1,000 quatrains. Most of them contain more than one prediction, and all but a few are described very like vaguely. They're very vague, obscure kind of terms. So they're like, over the course of hundreds of years, it's possible that some events may line up to predict like simple like coincidences, but most of them refer to death, war, natural disasters. And like, these are events that would happen throughout history no matter what. It doesn't really mean that you're a prophet, because there's always going to be death, war, blood. So they're kind of like, you could write that down and you can guarantee that at some point one of those things is going to happen. The next bullet point they say is, again, they just really kind of harp on that his metaphors are just really vague, and so you could be like, oh, this means that, like he predicted it. So they say that his metaphorical writing highlights general relationships and conflicts, not specific details. So like when he talks about people or nations, he sometimes describes them as animals. So they're like, that doesn't necessarily mean like the eagle is America, or, like I think probably the most thing I could think of to reference. So they just think that it's just way too unclear. It's way too vague. You could make it what you want. And then the last thing is they say that we're just paying attention to only the pieces that fit and not the rest of it. So they're like, it's not really a true prophecy, because they're like, well, yeah, like a queen dies. Yeah, a queen is going to die, but it doesn't mean like this queen, or you know what I mean? So they're just like, you just kind of hear with it what you want is what they think.
Yeah.
So keeping that all in mind, I'm going to tell you what Nostradamus has predicted for 2024. And I actually have the quatrains, so we can see what we think about it. So, all right. First up, climate crisis. All right. So climate crisis is underway with more violent storms, wildfires, and skyrocketing temperatures. But what's interesting is that, he saw this years and years ago. So let's read the quatrain together and see what we think about it. All right. So The dry earth will grow more parched, he predicts in one quatrain, and
Mhm.
there will be great floods. And then very great famine through pestiferous, I don't know what that means, pestiferious waves, so I guess like violent waves. And later, the latter phrase is okay. It means tsunamis. So they're talking about tsunamis destroying agriculture and causing disease and starvation to take hold. I think that me personally, I wonder how he would know the earth become more parched, though.
How do we know he's talking about the year 2024?
I don't know. I think he breaks it down.
I guess I guess that too though, because it's just like even the years, like did they even have the same calendar we do now?
Well, that's true too.
Like
I
I wonder because then that
So
makes
much
it
has changed.
subjective, right? Because like is he talking about this 2024 or what would be 2024 his time, like on
Yeah,
his
that's a good
calendar?
point. That is a good point.
And isn't he, well, he was French. I don't know. I feel like there's always been like a history of famine.
Amen.
I don't
Yeah,
know about drought. I don't know. That is curious about temperatures rising.
I think so too. See,
Like
and
I
I'll
don't
tell
know.
you my thoughts at the end, but we'll read more of these for 2024 and then we'll talk about what we think. Also, he predicts conflict with China. So, Um, let's see. Let's read the actual the quatrain here. So it opens. So this specific quatrain opens with a vision of combat and naval battle, and this is what he writes: Red advisory will become pale with fear, putting the great ocean in dread. I don't
What's
get
like they're all
that.
the polluting they're doing? Like that could be,
Yeah, and
what does that
so
mean?
people think that a red advisory is a reference to communist China. So see what I mean? Like, is it though? Do we know that it is? A red advisory
That to
will
me
become
almost sounds like
pale.
the warnings we get out here on is it likely to catch fire or not today?
See, to me, and this is what they're kind of saying, like a red advisory. Like, why does it have to be China? Like, I'm almost thinking like an Earth, like, woo, 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 advisory, advisory, like
Like a warning?
bad weather, it's on the way. Like a hurricane advisory or
Or it could
something.
even be like what are those called? Like the red tides?
Yeah,
Like that's not a good event to happen.
exactly.
Is
So
that like, you know what I
so the
mean?
way people have taken this, they've taken it to mean that the red advisory is a reference to communist China, and the rest of the quatrain they think means it's going to be like a war, a confrontation at sea. But couldn't it just be like a hurricane or a bad storm or a tsunami? Like sound the alarms, like bad storms coming.
Yeah. Or the sea getting hot. Is that why it's red?
That why it's red. Yeah.
Like
So
what
you
does
see
red
how
mean?
it's people kind of take it and
Yeah.
all right,
And
next. Sorry.
I I just don't really understand why I've always only heard about it in the context of the 20th and 21st century as far as his predictions go, whenever he made them in the 1500s. Like to me,
Yeah,
like who decided that they're applied to right now? Or has everybody always historically done that with his predictions?
right. That's true. That's a good point. It's a very good point. Um, Trouble in the Monarchy. So, uh, so in a book published back in the mid 2000s, best-selling Nostradamus commentator Mario Redding asserted that Nostradamus foresaw the death of Queen Elizabeth II. And apparently he saw it in the year 2022. So, which she did come to pass. But it's like, could there be changes with like Charles? And so this is the quatrain. King of the Isles. Okay, so yeah, all right, maybe. Who has had a controversial divorce, as we know, is going to be driven out by force What's more, he is replaced by one who will have no mark of a king. And so they put that as Harry and not William. And now, especially with all like the stuff that's blown up, with them, they're like, it's Harry. Like he's gonna be. And I'm like, well, I think the people in the UK aren't really big fans. I don't know what he's
I don't
done.
even think he
So
wants to
I
do
don't
it.
know. So anyway, they feel like they take this quatrain to mean that King Charles III will be forced to abdicate, and that Harry, who has no mark of a king, would take the crown opposed to William. But now I think it's really interesting because I'm like, have you read the new book by Harry? I have, but I don't know. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see. We'll see. And then last but not least, Mom, there might be a new pope in 2024. Pope Francis is currently in his mid 80s and has suffered some health problems. And Nostradamus tackles the subject directly in one quatrain that says, through the death of the very old pontiff, a Roman of good age will be elected. He writes, when the arrival of a younger, vigorous pope sounds like a good thing, he goes on to say the leader will weaken his see, SEE, and that he will be the pope for a long time. So they take this quatrain to mean weaken is like it's debatable, but they think it means that he will influence the church or he will somehow like with all the scandal, like he'll help like lessen that or he'll even create a bigger one. So I'm like, see, like
Yeah.
obviously it's gonna be one or the other. So I kind of wanted to read the quatrains so you could, as I have never really read them, and you can kind of see you could really take
They're pretty
them.
flimsy.
Yeah. And just a fun fact, because we love fun facts here. If you ever get quizzed about Nostradamus, he also wrote a cookbook in the early years of his publication.
I hope those are more specific than his freaking prophecies, because, you kind of need to know how much salt to add.
Yeah, well, he's like, or it could be fun. It could be a really fun cookbook.
Drop a gallon. Meh.
You pick. Um, but it basically included instructions on like how to make things such as hair dyes, laxatives, and toothpaste. In addition, with how to preserve food and just some other recipes that he had in there too. And as I said at the beginning of the show, his most famous, of course, was that rose pill that was said to treat the plague. Now, another fun fact about this guy, one of the most things he was famous for also was one of his jams, and it's called the Love Jam. So, based on it's made out of mandrake fruit, and he claims that if a man transfers his jam to a woman's mouth when kissing, it could instantly induce a burning of her heart to perform a love act. So, you might find that recipe there too. So,
What is
just kind of, I saw that in my research and I'm like, I have
don't transfer anything into the lady's mouth, okay? Ew.
And so that is Nostradamus in a nutshell. And my opinion of him is I think it's pretty awesome that, like I said, we're talking about someone that lived in the 1500s and we're still talking about his predictions in his life today. Like, that's crazy awesome. I love how he introduced the horoscopes and astrology. I do think a lot of his predictions are interesting. Like, they really are. But they are very vague, right? And so I think we can really add into it scare tactics and different things that really may not be the case. And what if he really did just mean this? What if he was just like, what if he's somewhere in the universe and saying, I just wrote poetry. Like, I didn't even mean
yeah,
for
like
it to
why did
be
he write it like poetry?
prophecy.
Maybe he was
Like,
just a
it's just a
horrible
joke.
poet.
Yeah, he's like, I just was writing about my feelings. Like,
I
on
only did
things.
that because it sounded cool. It
Like,
wasn't
I
supposed to
didn't
make
know you guys
sense.
were gonna make a. So I kind of wonder that too, like how much out of context. And I just think about the world in the 1500s and the world now, and so many things are different, but so many things, like people's behavior are the same. Like I kind of think about The Simpsons, We did a whole episode on The Simpsons, and their writers swear that like we literally just go off of like people's behavior
Mhm.
and what they're probably going to do. So I think that it may be much the same with Nostradamus as well.
Yeah, just knowing how history repeats itself and being observant.
Right, exactly.
I think the Simpsons are a little bit more impressive with their observational skills, though, than Nostradamus.
Well,
Sometimes
yeah, yeah.
you gotta
And
start
I mean, to be
somewhere.
fair, I feel like they have a lot more that he probably did as far as being able to view things and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I do think he's phenomenal. I think he's fascinating. Like, I really do.
I think
I,
we must try some of his recipes
I think we need
and
these
put them on
recipes.
TikTok and let you know how it went.
That would be amazing.
I'll
Let's
try
leave
to
our
make
TV
his love
out.
jam.
I mean, I don't really know much about mandrake fruit, but I mean, I'm willing to try.
Like, maybe Sprouts will have it. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe you could like sell it at like a farmer's market, your
I'm not
location.
gonna call it love jam. That
I think
didn't age
not.
well. Or maybe it
It
didn't
did it.
even maybe it wasn't good in the 1500s either to call it that.
Yeah,
But I'm
maybe they
not
were
gonna call
like
it that. You're selling me
Nostradamus.
what?
They're like, excuse me, is that legal?
Do what?
Just that's what call it that. Do what? Oh, well, what do you think about Nostradamus?
I have always thought he was just way too vague.
Yeah,
Like, it's so subjective. I've never thought he actually, predicted anything. People have just made his predictions what they want them to be and have forced it. I mean, it sounds to me like maybe he was just like a crazy French, not so good baker and poet, though, which makes him a little more fun. Like they
yeah.
always act like he was so mysterious, like Merlin, but it sounds like maybe he wasn't like
I
that.
mean, just think about it. Like the poor guy had fucking gout, trying to make it like you trying to go to college, start getting kicked out for, selling apothecary stuff so he doesn't get to get his doctorate. I mean, I give it to him. Like he just kept trying though. He was like the little engine that could. He's like, you know what?
He's
Fine.
he's literally what it's gonna be like in the future with these kids who tried to start college during COVID.
Yeah, he's like, I know what that feels like. Yeah, he's like, he tried recipes that didn't work out. He's like, I'm just gonna dabble with horoscopes, and apparently wasn't that great at it, but the idea stuck. And
Right?
then he was like, I'm
Make
gonna
an
just
Etsy
read this
store
whole.
and sell some shit
I
on.
mean, yes. I will definitely give it to him. Like he just kept on keeping on. He's like something will, and we're still talking about him. So, like
He would have
keep
had an Etsy store for sure.
he would have definitely had an Etsy store for sure,
Mhm.
selling his love jam.
Uh, it makes me out for some reason picture toe jam though.
Yeah.
uh,
Mm.
like Ren
Oh.
and Stimpy esque looking stuff.
Well, but I do think he's a cool, like, I mean, a lot of cool stuff about him for sure. But yeah, the predictions, I just always, I mean, and it's still so true today. Like, you always see him on the cover of something like this year it's gonna be the end or something like
According to
this is it.
Nostradamus' predictions
Yeah, it's
on,
over.
you know, June 14th at 2:34, a comet's gonna collide with planet Earth or something
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. I mean, I guess it just goes on to just show the news, like what they do. He's like, I
Mhm.
never said I was accurate. I don't know why you guys are putting my name on this stuff.
It wasn't even me. It was Nostradamus. That's somebody else.
I knew they were going to try to track me down. He's like, I'm just trying to make a living here, and they're still blaming me in 2024.
Oh, it's so funny.
Oh, so yeah,
Yeah.
but that's him. That's
Well,
our
that's
buddy.
always a good topic with his prophecies. They're always kind of creepy.
They are creepy, and I think it's just the way people probably wrote back then too. You know what I mean? Just the way they would
Yeah.
It just is it's just weird, you know? It's like, oh, it's
It's like,
creepy.
is this a spell or a prediction?
Yeah, yeah. So I think there's definitely like in like the way like they draw him and stuff and like put his pictures, like there's definitely like a Hogwarts kind of
I
like
definitely never saw pictures of him with obvious gout, though.
I,
So, what's that
I
about?
think they really missed the mark there on how he probably looks.
I guess come to think of it, he is sitting at his desk a lot, but I always thought it was
Smart.
because he was a thinker, not because he couldn't
He's like, I
move.
can't move. Damn it. I know. I feel bad for him, you know, like poor guy.
I didn't
Like,
know all that. They don't talk about that ever on the History Channel.
see, this is why you listen to Stormy
Truth.
Willow right here.
The truth about
This
Nostradamus.
I'm telling you the truth. Like they're not, yeah.
He was an eccentric college dropout with gout.
Yes. That like to cook. Really, no, it's like that. Have you seen that commercial? I don't know if they have it where you are, but it is about Etsy and it's like it has like this, you know, these people they're like sitting at the dinner table and it's like, we want you to go to college and be a scholar. Like, why do you want to like sew and stuff? Or why do you want to make perfume? I'm like, that would be Mr. Ramos, I feel
Why
like
do you
his
want to make
dad's like,
predictions?
yeah, like why do you want to make predictions and follow the stars and like make pastes and recipes? Why don't you
What's
just
up
be a
with this
grain dealer?
jam?
I mean, that might be why he had to go like hang out with his great grandfather and be schooled. Like his dad might be like, I can't. No, no. Like you will be a grain person or I can't deal with this predictions. He's like, I just want to be a writer. He's like, it's a writer, Dad. I want to be a writer. That's what happened. He's like Sean Brumner on Orange County. A writer.
You're not oppressed.
It's like you have gout. Exactly. That's why I want to be a writer. I can't be a grain dealer.
The grain trade's not the life for me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
You heard it
funny.
here first. The true story.
Okay, yeah, you've heard the predictions, but never the gout and the love jam.
Right. This is behind the magic curtains.
Yeah, we lifted the veil.
Yeah, we did. Harry Houdini would be proud.
He would be. I'm sure he was like, that guy is full of crap.
Yeah,
Hang out.
I'm sure I covered him much nicer than Harry would have.
uh, well, shall we see what the hell we're going to be talking about next time?
Let's do it.
All right. If you're not watching, we are spinning our wheel of topics. Can you see the wheel?
I can see it.
All right, let's spin it.
Oh, she's going fast.
Oh, oh,
Oh,
oh,
oh.
oh.
You
Theory.
theory. Okay. I'm glad I didn't get that one.
All right. I've been wanting a theory. So awesome. I have
Good.
theory for next episode.
I can't wait to hear it.
And I'll bring a good one.
You better.
I will.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed our story today. I hope you have a great week. Remember to stay cool.
Be the bigger person.
Be the bigger person.
Just break the wrist, walk away.
Great advice there, Dell. Great advice. All right. Well, as we say here on our podcast, stay safe out there, friends.
Stay curious.
And never trust the living.
Nostradamus.
I knew you were going to say it. Bye, you guys.
Later, taters.